You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hello, world, and welcome to Tales from Hollywoodland, a veritable feast of movies, Broadway, showbiz stories, news, and gossip with Julian Schlossberg, Arthur E. Friedman, and Stephen J. Rubin. Today's topic, we're talking to actor, producer, author, and all-around great guy, Steve Guttenberg. And now, here's Julian, Arthur, and Steve.
Welcome, Steve.
Hey, thanks so much, Steve. Good to be here.
Steve, because of Julian, who was good enough to send me the script from your show, which I loved, and seeing how you succeeded and where you all started. First of all, there's a great old line Betty Davis said one time. Some young actress asked her, "How do you get to Hollywood?" And she said, "Take Franklin." The way you got to Hollywood is about as unique as anything can be. Can you tell us a little bit about that wild journey?
I came out here at when I was 17. Can you imagine any parent letting their kid come out to Hollywood at 17? And I basically hit the ground running. I went to all the studios, found an opening at one of the studios. Meanwhile, my godfather, a wonderful fellow named Michael Bell, who I love, gave me an opportunity to stay in his house. He was a very successful, still is, voiceover actor. And I was able to stay there for 2 weeks. My father gave me 2 weeks to become a movie star. So I ran around Hollywood and found basically an audition for a Kentucky Fried Chicken movie, and I got it. I then started doing commercial after commercial after commercial. I was able to garner an agent, and I got into a teen comedy called The Chicken Chronicles with Phil Silvers, and then a movie of the week called Something for Joey, which was about the John Cappelletti football story. And then I actually even garnered an office at Paramount where I could work out of and also furnish it with from a golf cart from Bing Crosby Productions. And I went over to props and had a phony sheet with all the things that I needed, that I said we needed for Happy Days. Anyway, I got
maybe interrupt just for a moment, Stephen, and just say, when you say you garnered an office from Paramount, you didn't get it from Paramount. You got it from your own nerve. You snuck on the lot and then walked around and then got the golf cart. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it's true. I spent most of my days at Paramount at the very beginning, just being half a fan and half a neophyte actor, film actor, just spending time on Little House on the Prairie set and following Michael Landon around, listening to what he had to say, sneaking into the studio sauna where he was there with Merle Oberyn, Merle, I forgot his name. He was a big football player. He was a co-star.
No, Merle Olsen.
Merle Olsen.
Yeah.
So they were
Merlin Olsen,
right?
Merlin Olsen. So I spent a lot of time in the sauna with those guys. I actually even fainted, and they brought me out, and Merlin was holding me, and trying to wake me up. And I snuck onto the Happy Days set and Mork and Mindy and all these sets, and I just roamed the studio. I found myself on the water tank was they were using it for Grey Lady Down with Charlton Heston and Christopher Reeve, which was a submarine movie. And I spent a lot of time there. And then eventually, as Julian said, I found the Lucille Ball makeup building, which I haunted, which was empty, and thought to myself I could put an office here. And I did.
But I'm very familiar with that lot, Paramount lot, and I just was taken by you're just getting into the lot every day by waving hello to the guard or something, and he got to know you.
Were
Yeah.
you a pole vaulter? Did you pole vault over the wall?
That might have been easier.
You walked right in.
Would you tell the story of doing that Colonel Sanders commercial?
Oh yeah, my first audition was a Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial audition, and I went in there, and I was very lucky to sit next to an older actor who told me, "Just smile. That's what they want on commercials. Just smile." So I walked in there, and I did not stop smiling, and the director thought there was something wrong with me. I was so nervous. I was supposed to eat a lot of chicken. I faked eating chicken, and I got the part. And it's called Taft-Hartley. When you don't have a Screen Actors Guild card, but you get the job. So you have 30 days to join the union. So I went out to the Rose Bowl, and I was very excited. And the actual colonel was there, Harlan. That's his name. His first name was the real colonel. And they sat me down and right next to the colonel. And it was thrilling. You know, we had to eat chicken and cheer for the football team and everything. And then Harlan fainted. And he almost fell off the stands. And I caught him and sort of gently laid him on the ground. And everyone pushed me out of the way, all the minions. And they pointed, they thought I killed him. I threw him to the ground, and, I didn't hold on to him, and they blamed me for him possibly being, out of the earth. But he woke up. He said it was just a sun spell, and he asked who saved him, who caught him. It was me. For the rest of the day, I was, as they said, golden. I could get anything I wanted. But in one day, I saw the difference between the extras and the actors. And it really bothered me so much. It just killed me that extras weren't treated as well as the actors. Their food was different, where they sat was different, and it was sort of put in a holding cell like cattle. Really bothered the hell out of me.
Apartheid in Hollywood, huh?
Yeah.
I have a question. In doing the research, I noticed that your dad, Stanley, was listed in one biography as being an electrical engineer and another as an NYPD cop. Did he do both?
Yeah. He came out of the Army, and he and my mom fell in love, and he was going to school at City College to become an electrical engineer. And he graduated, and my mom and dad got married, and without telling my mom, he went and took the NYPD police test, and he passed with flying colors, and he entered the police academy. And he came home one day, and with his police academy outfit on, it's a gray shirt and gray pants, like a cadet. And my mom just flipped out. But that's what he really wanted to do. He was a real outdoors guy, especially for a Jewish guy. That was rare.
That shirt became a very important shirt for you. Would you tell that story?
Yeah. When I went in for my screen test for police academy, I didn't know what I was going to wear. And then I went into the closet, and I remembered I had my dad's police academy shirt. I lost my dad a little over a year ago. So I have these moments where it hits me, and that's sort of one of these moments now where I can't believe that time has gone by. I can't believe that he's gone. So, well, he's not gone, but I just can't believe he passed.
Well, we're gonna talk a little bit further about your dad a little later, but I would like to talk about the first big movie you made called Roller Coaster. Henry Fonda, Richard Widmark, and you're there. And tell us about that day of shooting.
Harry Gardino, George Segal. Well, it was a big action movie, and it was directed by a terrific action movie director named James Goldstone. And my godfather, Michael Bell, got a part in it as the villain, sort of a villain, the park manager who wanted even though there was a bomb on the roller coaster, that was the idea of the movie, he wanted the roller coaster to still run. He didn't want to, he was sort of like the mayor in Jaws. There's no reason to close the beach. So I asked him if I could get a part in it, and he did get me a part. I had 2 lines, and I went out there, and I was pretty nervous, and I had my first dressing room with a bathroom in it. I'm trying to think. Yeah, there was a bathroom in it, and I wore a suit. And they gave me a suit, and I just couldn't believe I was wearing a suit that I got from Hollywood. And I think I'm gonna tell you something. I think I remember it was a Universal suit, and I think it said Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. on the inside. So I just remembered that. So I got to the set, and before I got there, I did my lines, and I kept pausing between the lines, and I was doing them for Michael, and Michael said, "Don't pause. Your stuff is not that important. You come in, you have 2 lines, and you get out of there." I go, "Okay." So the director came over to me, and I told him, and he said, asked for my lines. I gave him the lines. I said, the park is huge, and there was another line there. And he said, "Don't pause between the lines." I go, "Okay." So what happens is Widmark and George Segal, and I think Harry Gardino are in a room underneath the roller coaster, and they're trying to figure out where the bomb is. So I'm a kid who comes in with the plans, and I go, "It was tough to get these plans. The park is huge." That's my line. So, they told me to stand outside the door, and when you see the red light go on, you enter. I said, "Okay." So I'm out there, and I'm just waiting for the red light. I didn't see the red light. This this production assistant burst through the door. She goes, "What the fuck is going on with you?" I go, "What?" She goes, "The fucking red light is going on, and they're waiting." I go, "Oh my God." So I go, "Okay," the red light goes on. And I come in, and first thing I do is I hit the camera with my elbow. And, I got one of those vibrating things,
Funny bone?
Funny bone. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, and it's killing me. And the director comes over and goes, "Hey, that was great, but, don't bum the camera." And I know he's thinking, this kid, just do the effing lines and get out of there. So I go, "Okay, no problem. And I start sweating. I'm a big sweater when I get nervous. Not much anymore, but I used to. And I go back there, and the PA says, puts a hold on him, and stop, he's sweating like an animal. No, she called me a farm animal. He's sweating like a farm animal. Oh. So I get all these makeup people come on. And in those days, they put dry cleaning fluid on your collar to clean the collar. I mean, straight dry cleaning fluid, which when it got on your skin, burned like there's no tomorrow. So they put this on my collar, and I'm burning to death under there. And they say action again, and I come in, but the door won't open. It was stuck or something. I can't open the door. I'm screaming, "Something's wrong with the door. Something's wrong on the door." The director comes over, and he goes, "Maybe is there anything wrong?" And the PA goes, "Yeah, there's something wrong. He has no talent." Oh. So the director and Widmark had a little, and the other actors had a powwow. And the director says, basically, I got to let the kid go. We don't need the line. We'll just do without it, because we got lunch in 10 minutes. And Widmark, to his credit, stood up and said, "Nope, cannot fire this kid on his first day. And if you do, I'm going to walk. You can't destroy a kid that badly." He said, "Let's do it. I'll mouth the words to him. It's 2 friggin' lines." I called it friggin'. He said 2 friggin' lines, and we'll get the show done. And he did. And he saved my job. It was, I got paid $300 or something for the day, which is a fortune to me.
Beautiful story.
And I got my part, and I kept, and I'm in the movie. If you see the movie Roller Coaster, I am in the movie. I'm not credited. I don't have credit, and I don't know why, but they did not list me in the credits.
Did they do that in Sense-Around, Steve? Was that a Sense-Around? Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, we owned a bunch of movie theaters in the 70s and 80s around Boston, New England. And of course, played all of the stuff that you were in. And I want to personally thank you for all the popcorn we sold because of the movies. It was so commercial. I mean, you were in commercial hit after commercial hit, and very successful. The question I have for you is: you start out as a teenager with a dream, and one of the few people who you schlepped, you did what you had to do, but you succeeded. You absolutely were able to capture that dream. What did it feel like when you knew you had it made? What did it feel like? I'm going to presume it was probably Police Academy. What was that like for you?
Oh, I only thought to myself I had it made for maybe 5 seconds, and then I had to keep going. There was always more artistry to do, more commercial films to do. There was so much fruit on the tree that I didn't have time to, I didn't have the personality to sit back and go, I made it. I'm not that guy. I'm a productivity is my jam. So I like to just keep going, and I was always like that. What's the next one? What's the next one? And I had them lined up 2-3 at a time. They were doing slots for me, which was really pretty cool. They go, you want to be in his fall slot? You want his summer slot? You want his spring slot?
Sure.
So
you're one of the most recognizable faces in America because of the hits that you were in. And some of these pictures were great. Cocoon was a great movie. I want to go earlier than then talk a little bit about Diner, which became a very iconic film. I was reading up on, well, of course, your character has one of the key plot elements is that you are giving your fiance a football quiz, which I think is probably one of the more unique things that Barry Levinson put into that script. I read somewhere that Kevin Bacon said that Steve Guttenberg ate incredible amounts of food and milk. And I was curious where that came from. Were you a prodigious eater in those days?
I still am. I am a world-class eater. I am Steve Jaws Guttenberg. I watch myself because I don't want to get heavy, but I can really eat, and I've always been that way. And on that movie was, I think, the first time I had per diem, so I could eat for free, and I would order 2 or 3 entrees. I just would, and I love certain foods. So yeah, so Kevin, that's very funny that Kevin remembers that. Yeah.
How did you get the role in Diner, Steve? How did Barry choose you?
I think he had. There was nobody else that wanted the part. No, I'm joking. He chose me because I was the best, and I was really good, and I gave a great screen test, and I wanted it, and I'm whether people like me or not, I am skilled and talented, and I fit that role really well.
Well, you did. You were perfect, as was the whole cast. There wasn't a miss in that cast. Ellen Barkin, everybody.
I read something that you were presented with a choice. You could either make $5,000 more, or you could take top billing. And to your credit, and obviously your career, you decided to take top billing. Is that correct?
No, I did not decide it. I was pushed into it and pulled into it and corralled into it. The choice was you get your salary, $5,000 for first position. No, for second position, or less money, you're just your salary for first position. Now, the choices were between me and Mickey Rourke. Now, Mickey wanted the money and second position. I wanted the money and second position. I did not want first position because it was less money. my agent said, "You are taking first position." And I said, "No, I don't want top billing. Give me second billing and the money."
You want the money.
And he said no, and he refused. And without my permission, he gave the go-ahead, have first position in the movie. Later on, it worked out pretty well for me. But at the time, it didn't seem like a good idea.
Well, you've worked with some of the finest actors we have. And as a kid, again, after the roller coaster, pretty early in your career, you're with the boys from Brazil, with Laurence Olivier, Gregory Peck, and James Mason. Tell us a little bit about Olivier. What was it that, did you see the greatness that people talk about with him on that film?
I saw the greatness in him, his every waking moment, his every move, whether he was eating dinner or he was on the set or he was walking down the street or getting into a car. He had a rough elegance about him. I don't know his upbringing, if he was privileged or not, but he had a real street way about him. He was very street savvy, but his elegance, his education, his flair for the delicate was extraordinary. And I think that's what made him such a great actor. He was so aware of the details of life. I remember he had me over to his place for dinner, and he had a private chef. They made dinner, and it was a few people, including me. And there was a tree outside his home. He had a lovely garden. And there was a tree outside his home, and he noticed a leaf that was unusual. And he stopped. He was walking with, maybe there were four of us. He stopped and looked at this leaf and said, "Aren't you a gorgeous little leaf?" And he touched it. And I think that that's the metaphor for his acting. He was able to notice beauty and unique mini events, and that made all those mini events made for his extraordinary performance and his talent. He was very friendly, very giving. When I was doing my scenes, he was off camera. It was telephone scenes. And when I screwed up, he would always yell, something like, "Don't worry, dear boy, we all do it. It's not a big deal. Let's just go again, right? Right, Frankie?" And Frank Schaffner would say, "Yep, that's it, no problem." And he was quite terrific. Years ago I heard, I think Julian, you might have told me the story, that somebody said to Cary Grant, I really want to be Cary Grant. And Cary Grant said, "Me too."
Yeah.
And I think that maybe Olivier was really Olivier, all the time. He was quite a benevolent king. He was a king for sure.
Now, Cocoon has a lot of water in it. You are a boat skipper. They have to hide the cocoons in the water. Were you comfortable in the water? I mean, I know you have to put on diving gear at one time. Was water okay for you?
Well, I did not know diving very well. So, and I've done a few water pictures, and it's dangerous. So I'm always a little on edge, especially if you're shooting in the middle of the ocean, where the water is most clear. So that's where people like to shoot. And it's, especially if you're shooting with animals like dolphins. And if you're in the way deep water, you don't know what's out there also. So you have some safety divers and you have a couple of follow boats, but I'm not completely comfortable underwater, but I've done it. And you have to be very, very vigilant about being safe, extremely vigilant.
We had a couple of theaters in Southern Florida, and the Cocoon played like Gone with the Wind, obviously in those theaters. How did you come about getting Cocoon, Steve? How did you get into it?
Like Diner, nobody else wanted the role, and I called and said, "I'll give you a break. I'll do it."
Wait a second. How about
Is that not it?
How about Nicolas Cage? I had a hunch he wanted that role.
Right. It was between. I went in for the meeting, and I met Dick Zanuck and Ron Howard and Lily Zanuck. We really had a great time, and I talked to them about the picture. And then there was Nick Cage did a rowing movie, I think before that. I think so. So he was sort of in a water movie. And I don't know if he did Peggy Sue Got Married or not, but it came down between him and I. And I got the part, which, in retrospect, are you going to give the part to Nicolas Cage or Steve Guttenberg? Well, I guess I have to answer that myself. I would still give it to Steve Guttenberg.
Well,
great movie.
In that movie, you're talking about not only fine actors who co-star with you, but you're talking about some of the great theater actors like Jessica Tandy of Streetcar Named Desire and Maureen Stapleton, Rose Tattoo. I mean, Hume Cronin, and then, of course, Don Amici. But tell us a little bit about working. You're a kid, and they're certainly in their 70s and been around a long time. What was it like to be around these people, Steve?
They were royalty. Jack Guilford. These. I find that the best in any business have wonderful manners, and for the most part, in any business, computers, plumbing, acting, and these people were exactly that. They had class, and you can't buy class. They had a friendship bone in them, which they knew how to be a friend. They knew how to be helpful, to be polite, to wait their turn. We all drove in one minibus every day, no limos, no private cars. They had no problem sitting around the set. And I think it was really fun for them all to be together for 50 days and just chat.
Where were you, Steve? Where were you shooting? Where was located?
St. Petersburg.
St. Pete,
And the Bahamas.
Were they Steve? Were they well read? Were they knowledgeable about many things besides acting?
Yeah, everybody in the cast was always reading it, especially Brian Dennehy. Don Amici was enthralled with the French Revolution, and Gwen Verdon had a Chaucer book in her dressing room. Maureen Stapleton was always reading. Jack Guilford always reading. They were quite well versed in life, and I was able to learn from them by just sitting and listening to stories, whether it was stories about Europe, about Ziegfeld, about Moulin Rouge, about the Italian cinema, about Orson Welles, Noel Coward. The conversations they weren't, oh, I read Noel Coward's play. It was when Noel came over to the house and spent the week with us, this is what happened. Oh my God. It's great.
There's a scene in the movie where you're in the pool with Tawny Welch, and she's kind of she's introducing you to alien foreplay, and I think your line was, "If this is foreplay, I'm a dead man." I have never laughed so hard when I heard that line.
That was actually Babalu Mandel, Lowell Gans and Babalu Mandel came and listened to a reading. And they worked with Ron on Happy Days. And they worked with him on Night Shift and Splash. So this film was written, I think, by Tom Bennett. But they came in for a punch-up. And that was Babalu Mandel's line.
Very successful in those days. How was it for you working with Ron?
First of all, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
And one of the most intelligent. And in terms of cinema, he's a true artist and a businessman, and he's able to marry both of them. He was quite open and allowing, but he always had a rule: if everybody comes up with an idea, it's okay. But at the end, my idea and my decision is final. But I'll listen to everything. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was quite fair, and that's how he worked.
You've worked with some of the best directors in the business. We mentioned Barry Levinson, Franklin Schaffner, and Ron Howard. What do you as an actor look for from the director? What is it that you want from your director?
You can smell it on a guy. You can smell when he knows how to make it. When he knows exactly how he's going to make this movie and how it's going to be a success. He knows it because he read and accepted a great script. So he knows it's a great script and he knows how to shoot it. And I think it's the spaces between the words that convince you that he's going to be a great director. It's not the words. It's the spaces between the words where you get that feeling. He knows how to build this house. You know, I went to a doctor one time. I got hurt. And my dorsal tendon was cut. And I had to have it repaired. I went to 15 doctors who all said they could do it. And I was wary of them all. I went to this one doctor, walked into his office, and he had 500 pictures of baseball players. And that's all he did was baseball players' arms. Mm. And I sat down with him, Don Sheridan in Arizona, and I said, "Can you do this?" He said, "Don't worry about it. I got it." He said, I do 100 of them, more than 100 a year. And I said, "But I'm worried and all this." I actually went to another doctor who said he could do it. And then I said, "If you were me, would you do it? And would you let you do it?" He said, "Actually, no." I would go to Don Sheridan. So when Don said to me, "Don't worry," I knew he could do it. Now, the fact that I saw he had 1,000 baseball players photos around him, you know, that gave a big of it. But the spaces in between, "I got this," and I looked in his eyes, that meant it. Same thing with the director. You can tell the director knows what he's doing just by the way he acts, he moves. You see, any theater, to me, commercials, movies, television, any kind of art, you have to have a feeling about. I'm sure Julian would attest to when he reads a script. You know, you have a brain that says, "Oh, this is written well," but you get a feeling. You go, "Ooh, I think this is going to be good," and that's what it felt like. Always feels like when you sit with a good director. You go,
I think you're right. I think you're right that it's true, really, of almost everybody. There's thems that got it and thems that don't. It could be an automobile salesman. It could be a doctor, a lawyer, an Indian chief. But there's a sense of confidence about them that we all, I think, appreciate.
Steve,
Barry Levinson had to be terrific to work with.
Oh, man. He's exactly one of those guys. He knows what he's doing. Very calm, very cool, very funny. And very easy to be around. And he's almost like an impressionist painter.
Yeah.
Just just methodical and lyrical, very methodical and lyrical.
I was on the set with him when he was doing Bugsy, and sometimes just a look, would take care of everything he needed from one of the actors. But yeah. Absolutely top rank.
Steve, you've done really well in franchises. When the Cocoon sequel came to your desk, was it a no-brainer to jump on it, or any hesitancy?
I thought it was a great script. And the fact that Ron Howard was doing it and Dick Zanuck, it was, I got to get in this movie. But I thought the movie read really well. And my agency, most of the agents said, no, don't do it. It's a movie about old people. Nobody's going to go. Mm. And one of my agents said, no, Stephen, I think you should do this. A lady named Tony Howard, who was very, very smart. She said, no, I think you should do this. And I took her advice.
They weren't going to go, just like they didn't go to see Driving Miss Daisy and Golden Pond and what have you. It's so silly if something's great, it'll overcome any potential obstacle. And that was great. I got a question for you, Steve. So now you do Police Academy. It's a huge commercial picture. And you're now Steve Guttenberg and walking the street, and now you're famous. People know who you are. They know your face. What was that like for you, fame, initially?
Fantastic. I love it. And I still love it.
Yeah. Being recognized.
I love it. Yeah. I love it.
Now, I heard that you turned down the Bill Murray character in Ghostbusters to do Police Academy. Is that true?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't remember, because I was getting offered a ton of pictures right after Diner. And I got very lucky. So I had a myriad of choices. But I don't think anybody could have done that part better than Bill Murray.
One of Police Academy's biggest fans was Bill Clinton, who apparently did tell you that watching the movie helped him get through some rough spots with his presidency. Did you know that?
Yeah, he told me that personally. I saw him somewhere, and he said, I got to tell you, when I have a tough day, I go down to the White House screening room, I put on Police Academy, and I watch it. And I watched it with his daughter. So I sat there and watched it with my daughter. So he said he's a big fan of Police Academy,
Yeah, apparently he got into a lot of trouble with Hillary. She thought that he was showing her the wrong material. In American society on this continent, it seems sometimes that seniors are kind of shuffled away. We don't want to see them. And I know in other cultures, people almost jump over each other to take care of their parents. And what you did was just very inspiring. Do you think Americans are turning it around? Do you think we're spending more time with our seniors to take care of them, or is it always kind of a afterthought?
I think we are, and much of it comes out of necessity. To give you an idea, there's probably 30 to 40 million caregivers in this country, and Rosalind Carter just opened the caregiving center in Georgia. It's become a very, very important part of life. And I think that many people are caring for their elders out of necessity and out of love, because to put them in a facility is quite dear. It can be between $5,000 and $10,000 a month or more. Now, I'm erring on the side of love, that people do it because they love their parents. But the United States is a youth-obsessed country, and false youth also, and lost youth. The respect for seniors is minimal compared to other cultures. So I agree with you. But I do think that I hear more and more about people taking care of their elders and their seniors. And I think it's very, very important. And it's a conversation that not many people want to have, because it's not that appetizing. Not like the Taylor Swift movie that's going to open up. That conversation is light and breezy, but this kind of conversation is a little tougher.
Now you have the perception of Steve Guttenberg as one of the nicest guys in Hollywood, but I also read that for some reason Johnny Carson didn't like you. Is that true?
Yeah, Johnny Carson did not like me. He would never have me on a show. Now, he would always have me on with David Letterman, Joan Rivers, Bill Cosby, Jay Leno, any of the guys who substituted for him.
Why, Steve? What was this all about? Why? Why did he not like you?
Money. It's about money, man. It's about money.
Why? Wasn't the fee to be on a show fixed?
No, not about that money. He and I were in a card game. He lost about $200,000, and he hadn't paid me. His way of avoiding me was not having me on the show.
Great story. Wow.
Not true.
Wait. But he just said it wasn't true. He just made up the whole thing.
Listen, we haven't discussed one of the biggest movies you were in, and a sequel as well, which is Three Men and a Baby. Didn't you have to meet Leonard Nimoy and you? Tell us that story.
Yeah, I was pretty hot then, and Colleen Serrault was the director, the French director who was supposed to direct Three Men from her original film in France, which was a huge hit in Europe. But she fell out of the picture, and Leonard Nimoy had recently directed, I think, Star Trek IV about the whales, and it was a beautiful movie. He did a great job. So they wanted him to replace Colleen, but Tom and Ted and I had already been hired, so we had approval over him. I had to go meet Leonard at his Bel Air estate, which was big. And I go over there, knock on the door, and there's Leonard Nimoy, Spock. Meet me at the door. You know, even I think for actors, it's just amazing when you meet somebody who you've seen a lot, and then you see him in person. It's pretty exciting. Came into his house, and he was very serious. And I said, Leonard, I thought that Colleen Serrault was directing this. And he said, she was, but she fell out. Now I'm directing it. And I said, well, do I have the job? I didn't know if I was cut out. I was asking for his maybe his revealing a secret to me. And he said, no. The question is, when you meet me, do I have the job? And we proceeded to have dinner, which was his mother's stuffed cabbage. Really great.
Now, you told me once that, everyone associates you with comedy, but one of your favorite genres is thrillers, and that you've always loved thrillers, and you never really got them, but you started to get some interesting movies that took you in a different place. One of them is called The Bedroom Window, which is not a typical Steve Guttenberg part. Can you talk a little bit about your character in that piece?
Yeah, that was directed by the great Curtis Hanson, who became very famous for L.A. Confidential, a very well-admired director. This was his first picture, I think, after he did one for Roger Corman. And it starred Elizabeth McGovern and Isabelle Huppert, which was pretty great. And the movie worked like gangbusters. It was terrific. It was produced by Dino De Laurentiis, and who was wonderful guy, marvelous, just so charismatic and such a slippery character. But he was so wealthy that he was able to sort of glam up his gangsterness. But he was, kind of a gangster guy, but a wonderful guy to me. He actually kept saying to me, I want you to act like you were in Police Academy. And I go, but, this is not a comedy. I can't be like that guy in Police Academy. He goes, no, I don't give a shit. Don't give a shit about any of that. I need you to be like the Police Academy. I want this movie to make fucking money. I go, all right. I know, but it's not Police Academy. He goes, I don't give a shit. I wanted to make fucking money.
Hmm.
Oh man, that was just hysterical. So anyway, the picture turned out really well. I love thrillers. I love thrillers because they're complete fodder. They're complete entertainment. The world, I think, has always been a tough place. You know, people say it's hard now, and it is a tough place now. It was tough in World War II, World War One. You know, those times. You know, it was tough in the Black Plague. I mean, there was tough times, and so stories, fiction, really can take you away. So, and thrillers, most of all, because they're all nonsense. They're complete nonsense.
Steve,
You know,
what are some of your favorite movies? What are some of your favorite? Forget that you were in it or not.
Body Heat.
Great movie.
The Graduate. The Great Escape.
Yeah.
Now Oppenheimer. Help by the Beatles. The first James Bond. All the Hardys. All the Laurel and Hardys. Oh my God. Were they done well? Oh. And Harold Lloyd, all of Harold Lloyd's movies, Charlie Chaplin, you know, the Great Dictator. Just there's so many wonderful movies that Shane. Oh, do I love Shane?
Mm-hmm.
And Little Big Man, True Grit with John Wayne. So I'm a bit of a cinephile. So I have a list of 100.
Where do you put a movie called Day of the Jackal, the original?
Great movie.
Great movie. Nobody knows it. It's crazy. You know, I feel the same way. One of the greats.
Great movie. Amazing movie.
You know, the interesting thing about Laurel and Hardy, and this is a little off the subject, but you mentioned them. I saw this interview with Stan Laurel, and he was very frustrated about the fact that the films were playing television and people didn't understand the pacing because a lot of pauses take place. But Stan Laurel, who was the brains of the outfit, despite what the character he played, Hardy just wanted to play golf, said we put the pauses in purposely for the laughter in the theater, so we would pause for that and then say the line because we didn't want the lines lost. And I thought, wow, what an interesting thing to understand. But as you said, Stephen, to me, like you, they are sensational, even with those pauses.
Man, it's true. You know, well, he was playing for the platform of the day, which was a movie theater with people in it. And he knew, okay, my comedy for this we need this, because we have to wait because we want them to hear the next line, etc. But boy, there was a few scenes with I think a piano going up a flight of stairs, and oh my god, and my dad and I would watch them nonstop. They're brilliant. They're so brilliant, man. Oh man, I love their movies so much, and Jack Benny. Wow, the movies. You know how many great movies he made. Oh my God. To Be or Not to
Be. Yeah.
Ooh, beautiful.
You know, we started the show, Stephen, talking about your dad, and I'd like to bring up the fact what you did about his dialysis, because how difficult it was for him to have to go to the place and wait around, etc. You did an incredible thing that I didn't even know existed. Would you tell us about that, please?
Yeah, dialysis is for anybody who doesn't know, is a process where your entire body of blood is drained from your body, goes through a machine, it's chilled to 34 degrees, it's filtered by a dialyzer, and then it is returned to your body. Now, it takes usually about 3 or 4 hours to do this, and you have to go to a center where you're dealing with industrial machines and 20 or 30 other patients all in the same room. So the technicians can go from machine to machine. It's a very, very difficult process. My sister and I, my dad was an Army Ranger, And the VA, I must say, the Veterans Administration has big problems, but they're also pretty terrifically big in what they can accomplish. They sent my sister and I to a medical facility to learn how to become dialysis technicians ourselves. And we set up a hospital room in my dad's den. And instead of driving him to the center and sometimes waiting an hour to get on a machine, he just toddled out of his room. We put him in the chair. We cannulated him, which means stuck him with the needles correctly so that the blood can come in and out. Hooked him up to the machine. Oh my God. Very tough system. And we cleaned his blood every day for over 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Incredible. Just a terrific thing that you did. Stephen, if you look at your career and you've done so many things in television and theater and film, what would you say, if you had to pick one or two, what would you think were the highlights for you so far in your career in working?
I'm going to tell you what James Mason told me when he got asked that question. They would say, James, what is your favorite movie? And he said, the next one. But to answer you seriously, you know what's funny, Julian? I don't have a favorite. I don't have a favorite. Now, the ones that got Academy Award nomination, the ones that made a ton of money, well, they're the prettiest of the children. They are the smartest of the children. But it doesn't mean I don't love the child that, didn't do well in school and nobody pays attention to him. I love him just as much because it takes just as much trouble and effort and worry to make that child who's not the star than to make the one who's the football star who gets into Harvard. So I don't have a favorite. I never did.
Steve, do you have is there such a thing as a turning point child? A picture that was a turning point for you?
No. I never look at one picture and say, wow, that one really put me on a different trajectory. No. I think it's just always been like this for me. Straight, a little down, a little up. I can recover from anything. And I'm quite resilient. And I think that's what you need to be as a human being.
I've seen all of your movies through the 70s and the 80s, and I would say subjectively that your turning point, to me anyway, was Diner. I noticed you in Diner. We would see them in screening rooms in Boston. I'd always go to the screenings, and you came off that screen.
Thank you. That was a great picture for me, and Barry Levinson absolutely changed my life.
Yeah.
There's one thing for a picture to do respectable box office, but it's another thing to get your peers to fall in love with it. Mm-hmm. Dick Zanuck had a great line, really great line. And this happened at Diner, and it happened to Cocoon. After the screening for the industry, well, when we had the screening for audiences, they cheered and they clapped and they loved it. After the screening for the industry for Diner and Cocoon, there was dead silence.
Oh, God.
And Zanuck, after Cocoon, I said, oh, is this terrible? He said, no, they are jealous as all fucking hell.
Love it. I get that. So, geez, do I get that.
Well,
Fred Allen had a wonderful line about Hollywood. He said it wasn't enough for you to succeed. You had to see your friends fail.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Terribly true. Horribly true. Horrible.
You now are identifying yourself as well as a director. And I was going to ask you how you've made that transition. Has it been a natural one for you, or have you had to really bone up on stuff?
I first directed an after-school special, and I really enjoyed that one. And then I directed a feature called P.S. Your Cat is Dead, which I also greatly enjoyed. And I've directed a few other small productions. It's not my first love, but I really enjoyed and I do enjoy the creativity and the ability to make something out of nothing. The editing room is such a magical place. You can take a reaction from another scene, another day, and if you got the same wardrobe on, stick it in there and it'll work. It's pretty cool. And I do enjoy talking to actors about the scenes, but I did notice as being an actor and a director is that make sure you choose good actors and have a good script. And all you have to do is, Arthur Hiller used to say that, all I have to do is be there. Just be there.
I once did a series that I interviewed the top directors of John Schlesinger at the time, etc., Arthur Penn, Ben Kazan. Every one of them said directing is 80% casting. 80%.
Yep, that's true. Well, we've been having a great time with Steve. It's always wonderful to speak with you about every aspect, and your work with the seniors is great, and of course, being so inspired by your work with your father, and you've given us so much joy on the screen. It's just been fun, and we always enjoy that. Everyone, you've been listening to Tales from Hollywoodland, and if you've made it this far into our show, we want you to subscribe. It's free, and we are available on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We would really appreciate it, and please don't hesitate to recommend us to your friends and family. We have an email address. If you have any questions or suggestions for us, just dial us up at talesfromhollywoodland@gmail.com. talesfromhollywoodland@gmail.com. Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Is there a gift?
Yeah, you were the gift. Steve, terrific.
Oh, yes.
Loved it. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
A basket?
Kind of like the ending of the screening of Cocoon.
Silence. Well, thanks, you guys. I really enjoyed talking to you. I respect you all, and I'm so glad that Julian invited me. And thanks so much, Julian, and thanks so much, guys, for having me on. And I hope to see you in person. And Mr. Rubin, your beach on Bundy Drive is extraordinary.
And Steve, thanks again for the popcorn.
My pleasure. Isn't it wonderful?
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.